Cut you off. There you go. No,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, so the avoider archetype, that's a problem because a lot of these people don't look at their bank accounts in terms of their budgeting, and it just gets out of control. And these types of people tend to have credit card debts that are quite high, and they don't have a place to put their money to invest or grow their money, and they don't have a plan more often than not. So an avoider just completely avoids it. And in a relationship between a man and a woman, typically a woman will be the avoider of the money. Not always, but typically in my experience. And the man will be doing the money stuff. And quite often it's really, you can get in a lot of trouble if the man's a spender and the woman's an avoider, or vice versa. Someone's spending it and someone doesn't know they're spending it. So it kind of creates a lot of problems. An avoider can be good in terms of, well, you know, doesn't bother me so much because I'm not even looking at it. So it takes less effort. But anyone who's an avoider should be looking to hire someone like a bookkeeper, or, you know, someone to look after their budgeting, or apps or something like that, where it's helping them to do it for them, because they're just not going to do it. So using tools and systems or people to help you manage your money is effective as an avoider. This third type of archetype is a hoarder. And a hoarder is someone who clings on to money, like really holds on to it. They're, I would say, more than thrifty, but more like, you know, fairly tight with their money. They've got generally long pockets and short hands, I would say. And they really don't like to spend money on gifts. They think it's frivolous and silly and pointless. They don't like to spend money on new things. Like they tend to have a lot of savings in their account, basically. And where that is effective can be the fact they have savings and they have, you know, a safety net, and they have choice and they have options, and that's quite good. But it becomes a problem when they don't spend any money, because if you're in business or you're trying to level up, you have to spend money. You have to either invest in yourself or invest in something. And that's where hoarders come into problems. They don't ever level up in the personal growth because they're just too afraid to spend money on themselves or anything. And generally the way the world works is you do spend money the right way, it does come back for you and help you. So they're no good at that. They just cling to it, which is why they never do any personal growth. So yeah, there's different levels of hoarding. So like you can be a complete hoarder and just be so thrifty that, you know, you're trying to save your way to wealth, right? And then you can be just enough of a hoarder where you've got enough of an emergency fund, you've got some savings you can invest, and you're also being able to grow your business. So there's different extents and levels of each archetype. You can be an extreme spender, an extreme avoider, extreme hoarder, or you just a little bit, okay? And the fourth archetype is what's called a money monk. And a money monk is someone who grows up in an environment where money is taught to be the root of all evil, and it's dirty, and it's shameful to want more money, and there's guilt around it. And generally these money monks, they have disdain for people with money because they feel they've just secured the money in all these weird and wonderful ways that are negative. So they've stolen it, they've ripped people off, so they turn around and look at rich people as like Scrooge. And I think that a large part of the money monks mindset is formed from Disney and cartoons and all the villains in movies who happen to all have money. So that tends to develop their mindset towards the fact that if you got money, you're an evil person. And so they don't want to touch it. And you know, they're a victim of rich people generally. But money monks will tend to want to, say, train themselves to a tree to save a tree, whereas if they understood money to create money, they could buy the whole forest. So they're just not quite sure of how money is effectively used because of the limiting beliefs they have. So they're the main, obviously that's a big problem if you're wanting to, you know, be successful in business and get ahead, because the money will just, if you don't have a nice home for it and you don't respect it, it will not respect you. And if you don't want it to come into your home, it won't. And where the problem lies, if that happens, is that money monks tend to be, you know, rather, they're more hippie-ish, and they live in, you know, places that are really cheap, and they're just really living life more than anything. And I think where that can be effective is much like a monk, you can be, you're not driven by that stuff, and you start to just enjoy the present moments of your life and so on. But the money monks that I've met, they typically do want to have money. I just think that their limiting beliefs prevent them getting it. So they're the money archetypes. Maybe pop in the chat which one you think you are. Sometimes you're a combination of two, and it's can be a bit of a frightening thing when you're a spender and an avoider at the same time. You spend your money, then you don't look at your bank account. So maybe pop in the chat which one do you think you are? Spender, avoider? Rachel, spender, avoider? Yeah, spender is the most common. Definitely most common. It's just called retail therapy sometimes when you're a spender. Makes you feel good, the dopamine hit you get. So
I mean, I love spending money, but I hate looking at that bank account. And I'm not going to lie.
So you're an avoider mainly?
I'd probably say I'm more on the spending side than I am on the avoidance side.
Okay, that's normal though. I mean, spender avoid is the most common combination of archetypes. So Claire,
I think I spend, but then I still look at my bank account every day and I'm like, where's the money going? But I know exactly where it's going, but then I'm just expecting it to just keep replenishing.
So you're a spender, but you're not an avoider because you do look at your accounts, I imagine. Especially being a business owner, it's really challenging to be an avoider because things creep up on you. So it's good to have a bookkeeper if you're a business owner. Spender, maybe avoider, spender, all these spenders. I'm not sure these days. You used to be a spender. Someone's a hoarder in here. Who's that? Oh, Kate.
Probably my brother. I think, Ryan, you're a hoarder, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm a hoarder. I don't know. I think I'm a spender hoarder. Which is crazy. But I spend money on really effective things. I'm okay to spend money, but I like to hoard money to invest it. So it's a weird, I think it comes from the pain that you experience when you're younger. So that's what dictates money mindsets generally, is like anything, any mindsets come from pain. So events of the past, and that's probably what's dictated your personality type. Or you've picked up from the environment from your parents or your environment of your friends that this is how it works with money. And quite often people are they're not playing wealth games, they're playing status games. And if you play status games, you will probably find you'll have an unhappy life. But if you play wealth games, you probably have a happy life. And most people use their money for status games. And they'll be buying things like nice handbags, clothes, cars, shoes, living in a place they can't afford, doing things they can't afford, going out. Just the status games they play is quite common. And you'll see that on Instagram a lot. It's a status game. It doesn't really lead anywhere. It doesn't give people a lot of choice. I think the Tinder swindler is probably the best at the status game. It doesn't really lead him to any great places. I don't know if you've seen that show on Netflix, but what you want to do is you want to play wealth games. And that means that you've got to be quite effective with your money choices, right? And your relationship choices too. Because the idea of wealth is to play long money games with good people. And that's why when you're in a business like this, one of the questions you ask yourself is, am I in business with the right people? And do I want to play this game with them for the next 30 or 40 years? And if that's the case, then great, you've got a good wealth vehicle and you've got a good environment and you've got all these effective things. But then it becomes, well, what wealth game am I playing, or what money game am I going to play for the next 30 or 40 years? Because money it works for you so well when you know exactly what to do with it and you deploy it into long-term investments, right? And so I think a lot of people are playing short-term money games. They're definitely playing status games, but they're also probably playing, for most part, short-term money games. And what a short-term money game really is generally a status thing. That's short-term, but also like a jackpot money mindset experience where people are looking for the jackpot. So short-term money games are lotto tickets, crypto trading, flipping houses sometimes to some extent, depending on the market and so forth and your experience. Things where you're kind of looking for a quick dollar. It happens in network marketing a fair bit, people looking for, quick money. It happens a lot. Gambling, trading, FX, binary options, all that stuff that you get DM'd for on Instagram these days. They're short-term money games and they won't help you win because for more often than not, there's someone with an agenda. But people that play short-term money games are just looking for a lot of money with no effort and no skills and no discipline. And that just, money doesn't reside there. It's not where it lives. Money lives in behavior. So people say to me all the time, Lloyd, you know, I really got to manage my money. I'm like, no, you don't. They go, what do I mean? I'm like, everyone manages their money. I'm like, what are you talking about? Everyone manages their money. Everyone manages their money. Some manage it poorly, others manage it well, but everybody manages their money. So rather than worrying about managing your money, quite often, and I got this quote that I talk about in my second, I love this quote. It's Insta quillinus inventor. It's a Latin quote. And it literally translates to, in filth you will find it. And Carl Jung re-quoted it and he said, that which you desire most will be found in the place you least wish to look. So when it comes to money and your behavior, right? Managing money is about your own personal behavior. And that's the place where no one wants to look, because they don't want to take personal accountability and blame for the fact they can't manage their money. So if you want to find how to become good at money, look at not how you're managing things or your background or anything like that, but more about your own personal behavior. Okay. So don't manage your money, manage your behavior. Rachel got a bingo. You obviously watch Fraser Brooks if you got a bingo. He does that a lot in his lives. Give me a bingo.
She's in a circle, friend.
Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, good that you got a bingo there, Rachel. So what do I mean by manage your behavior? Well, it's all down to habits. And too many people have these goals, like they'll have a vision, they'll do a vision board, they'll have goals. Okay, I want to achieve this year, that. But the reality is, even your goals are quite challenging to get to if your habits are out of kilter. And so you want to really more focus on your habits. So you look at how you're approaching your money this week. It's very simple to do it well. You just start to become aware of actually what you're spending it on. So one exercise you can do is take a small little notepad. And the idea of it is a physical notepad, not the notes on your phone. Something that's challenging, something that's a pain in the ass to do, where you need a pencil, get a pencil and a notepad. It's real painful, right? And every time you spend money, you have to take the pencil out with the notepad and write down what it is and how much it costs. Okay. Now there's two parts to this exercise of managing your money better. The first part is you're going to track what you're spending money on for the day. You even do it for a day. Don't even worry about a week, just the day. And you'll start to see a pattern where you're like, wow, I'm spending money on that, and that. But also some small frivolous spending that is usually easier to do as much as this, beep, right? The fact that you've got to pull out your pen and paper and physically write that down is such a pain in the ass that you actually stop wanting to spend money. Like, you know what? I don't even need that because I don't want to pull the pencil out of my bag and I can't be bothered. So what happens is you start to then be very aware of what you're actually spending your money on day to day. Okay. And you'll be probably shocked as to how much you do spend like small things, right? And this is the beginning of becoming aware of how much you spend. Now, one of the things you can do to take back control of your daily habits around money is having things like a no spend day, where you literally just don't spend any money yourself on a day. Like today, I'm not spending a dime. Just a day, just to kind of loosen the grip that you have on your patterns. And that is a really effective way to start taking back control of your habits. Okay. Now, habits only get you a certain way. Like habits will allow you to spend less on things you don't need, change your behavior and your patterns and your habits so that you have some savings, right? So you're not living paycheck to paycheck, basically. That's what behavioral changes will do for you. And I've coached, I had one woman, she said, Lloyd, but I've really got nothing left. Like I have no more room to save. I'm like, well, let's go through your bank account. Let's go through your bank statement. So I've got her to print off her bank statement. You can do this for yourself too. And for all you avoiders out there, printing your bank statement off and sitting down in front of it is very confronting. But that's where the answers lie, inside of you and your behaviors. So it's painful to do that. In filth, you will find it. Carl June's quote. That's where it is. That's where you got to look, right? So when you go through this, I had this lady and she did it. It's like, well, I said, well, where's your money going? She's a 6-figure earner. And she goes, well, you know, I have nowhere else to save. I'm like, well, let's have a chat about it. And she goes, well, and she was, you know, she's a single mom. She was doing good, doing her best and stuff. But I knew there was if you got 6 figures and you can't save money, there's something happening in your life. So it turns out, oh yeah, I pay that woman to do this, and then I pay to do the clothes. And then now this is important when you're in business to outsource stuff. I get it. But when you're skint and you can't even put $1 together every week, like there's some things you got to sacrifice. So I was like, well, that's probably something you're going to have to do at 10 p.m. at night, I'm afraid. Like, there's just some really uncomfortable things you might have to do so you can get ahead, right? Netflix goes, swimming lessons for the kids go. Look, there's some things that happen in your life that are really nice haves, but we've seen to have created this thing where they're just like needs. Having private lessons for your choice, that's a want. That's not something that's like God-given right to you, right? There's one example. But there's things that you feel are your God-given right. Well, everyone else says, yeah, I've got to have this, right? Like this. I've got to have must, right? There are cheaper versions of this, right? I'm not suggesting don't have it for your business, but just think about what are some of the things that I actually have and buy that is an absolute luxury that maybe 30 years ago people just didn't need, but we've just, right? We've leveled up with the Joneses. Keeping up with the Joneses. Have you heard that saying before? Keeping up with the Joneses. Joneses are flipping broke, man, and they got so much debt. They're playing status games. So when you change your habits and your behavior, what will happen is you will start to see money created in your bank account. Now, I did this workshop recently on micro investing. One of the most effective ways to become a better money manager is to set up your Money Box micro investing app and start putting small amounts of money each week into that app. Okay. Just automatically pay yourself first before anything else. And you just start to see money getting created. Psychologically, most people, when they see that, there might be £1,000 in there, there might be £2,000 in there, and they start rubbing their hands together. You beauty, I have a savings goal to have a spendings outcome. And that's problematic because you're only saving in order to spend. That's the whole purpose. That's what we get taught. Save your money if you want to go buy that toy, right? So more often than not, it's travel. I want to save my money and then go traveling. Save my money and go traveling. Save my money and go traveling. 1065. Oh shit, I'm in a home because I have no money. Truth, right? And that's a gnarly way to live the rest of you. Maybe not 65, but you know, as you get a bit older, you're not in you can have no money when you're young, but you can't have no money when you're older, right? And I think we don't want to labor our future generations with the fact of looking after us financially because we didn't manage our behavior well enough. Okay. So it's a bit like governments that spend money at the moment. The next generation pays for it. Well, as an adult, if you spend all your money now on travel, your children pay for that because they look after you and they pay all that stuff for you. So that's just something to consider to help you create some pain in your life around not having money. So you start to move your behavior towards having money. Okay. If you've done any Tony Robbins work, he talks about pain and pleasure. The brain will move you away from pain towards pleasure, right? Which is why people watch Netflix instead of getting in their business because it's a bit more pleasurable initially. Same with money. If you can create painful experiences with money, you move away from them. So if you think, well, I don't want to burden my children with my financial problems. I don't want to be living in a home where I can't afford to do basic stuff, right? It's painful. So you got to then move away from the pain and start creating good money habits. So part of the money behavioral process is to avoid debt. And if you have debt, quite a question I get a lot is, should I pay off debt or invest? And the answer to that is do a little bit of both, just so that you're paying off your debts, but you feel like you're progressing with your investing. But if you get your money habits, effective habits in place, you won't need debt. Debt is about getting something today you haven't earned. And people are really good at that, particularly with Afterpay and Zip Pay and, you know, these lay-by type scenarios where you get stuff without having earned it. Now, people often ask me, well, what's the point in saving money? I'm not going to spend it on travel and clothes. What's the point? The point is that you want to build up or plant a money tree. And what I mean by that is this. Let me draw it for you. So what happens is plant your money tree here. So let's say what I mean by this is you get some money tree seed. Okay, so you get some seeds here. This is your savings. So you change your habits and you get some seed. Okay, you're like, okay, I didn't spend all that money this week because I had the pen and pencil thing and I'm trying to change my habits and it's good. So that's your seed. That's your savings. The seed is not designed to be taken to the market and traded for cash or bartered for a holiday. It's not for that. The seed is to be planted, okay, to create a money tree, which is called investing, essentially. And what happens is most people don't know what to invest in. So I just say, don't invest in a property because it's too expensive to get into. Just put your money into an index fund. So when I'm referring to a money tree, that's what I'm referring to, an index fund. Just to put it very simply, an index fund is where you're buying one share of lots of different shares and things in the stock market. Have you ever had you guys got a UK pension? Like is
Yeah,
it,
we do.
yep, like a superannuation, like a
Well, some do. I don't
like a
know.
401k type thing?
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask because I, obviously being self-employed, I don't have one. But
Sure.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
you're
if we
employed.
pay in a certain amount, I think George, yeah, if he pays in £50 a month, then his employer matches it.
Yep.
We've got like something like that.
So do you know
Yeah.
where do you guys know where they put that money?
To the government.
No.
That's right. No one knows where that money is. Fascinating, isn't it? Well, let me show you where they put it. They put it into a broad-based index fund like this, index fund. But quite often with that type of scenario, they're putting it in an ineffective fund, usually, where there's bonds, cash, real estate, stocks. These things are called assets. They're putting your money into assets because they know if they put it into assets, the assets will grow. Okay. That's how you grow money. Money itself doesn't grow. So you know, it just doesn't grow. If you want to experience that, put it into a savings account. Inflation will actually take your money value down and you won't get paid pittance in a savings account. Your money does not grow by itself. How do you grow money? You actually buy assets. An asset is something that actually produces income. So usually it's shares, which is a share of a public business, right? So like, for example, I can buy shares in Barclays Bank. I own a piece of that business. That's just shares. Okay? It's shares of a company. And property, because property and shares are two assets that when you buy them, they produce income. If you were to buy shares in Barclays Bank, right, it will pay you a dividend, income dividend, twice a year or 4 times a year, okay? You buy a property, that tenant's going to pay you rent every month. That's income. Both of those assets produce income. So when you're planning a money tree, the reason why I don't talk about property much is not many people have £50,000 ready to go and invest to buy a property. They don't want to get any debt. And property is also very expensive at the moment because of interest rates. So index funds are the most effective, easiest things to get into when you want to take your money tree seed you're creating and plant your tree. So if your pension, if your retirement fund is already in an index fund, that's great because you get a small percentage of your salary is being put in there for later, which is smart. That's why the government has it, because they can't trust people to manage their own money, which is a bit sad, but true. So you can put it into your own index fund that's not in your retirement account. You can access it anytime you want. And so an index fund is basically when you're buying you're putting your money into a fund and it's buying assets for you automatically. Okay. That's how you grow your money. So what happens is you plant your tree and you plan to by opening a Moneybox app. It's called Moneybox. You download the app and you start putting small amounts of seed that you're creating from your habit changes into the app. And it's buying these assets for you. And what happens over time, anyone at school, when you're in school in like grade 1 or 2, ever go that exercise where you have a little styrofoam cup and you put it with soil and you plant a little seed. You ever do that? I don't know if you guys did that in science when you were a kid. And what happens to the seed?
Whoa.
It grows. Right? You see it, but you know, does it grow fast?
Nope.
Not when you're watching it. You're like, oh, it's not growing. And then, you know, a couple of weeks go by and you forget that you did that had styrofoam cup, and you forget you put it on the windowsill of your classroom, and you come back 5 weeks later and you're like, whoa, there's a plant. Oh my goodness. Science, right? Wow. It's amazing. Same with your investments. Okay. Same with your investment. It takes time to grow, and it grows bigger and bigger and bigger. So when you're planting, I don't know if you guys have any green fingers. I definitely don't when it comes to actual planting trees. But when you plant a tree, how do you make it grow faster?
Water it.
Water it. Yes. Water. Anywhere else? What else do you do?
Feed it.
Give it sunshine and you feed it. So you use it fertilizer, right? I don't know what fertilizer color that is. Let's just call it purple. You get fertilizer. I don't know how to draw fertilizer. Anyway, there you go. So you do that. And what happens is it grows faster. Oops. It grows faster, okay? Now, what happens to people when they're investing their money is if you started this Moneybox account, that's your money tree. People, what they do, they're playing short-term money games, remember? So they go, okay, well, I've got the money there. Now it's there to be spent. So I'm going to go and what they do when they spend their investment account, that money app, that Moneybox app, they go and they do this. They get a chainsaw, okay? And they cut their tree down. And they take they get the money, which is basically how much their tree's grown by, and then go and sell the wood. They go and sell the wood to Flight Centre, and in return the Flight Centre gives them a holiday. So here's my wood. Here you go. This is all my work on my tree. Take it. Then you go, and then all of a sudden you're back here. You don't have a tree anymore. So people say, well, what's the point in this, Lloyd? Why would I just put my money away into investment, into an index fund and build it up and build it up and build it up? Why would I do that? When can I have fun? When can I spend it? What's going on? You can't take your money with you, right? All these mindset things pop up. So here's what happens. If you guys could, let me show you this. If you're on a desert island, I'm gonna draw the island here, okay? That's a desert island. There's water either side, can't get off, okay? And you're stuck on this island, okay? Just you there. Help may come in the next few weeks, so don't worry, don't despair. Things will happen. And you have two trees. You have choices of two trees, perhaps even. And this is you here. Hello, I'm deserted on this island. But you get two types of seeds to plant. One type of seed is going to plant this tree. Now, this is what we call an evergreen tree, a tree that never drops anything. It doesn't shed its leaves. Call it a palm tree with no coconuts. Okay. Palm tree doesn't do anything, doesn't shed its leaves, or maybe it does over time when they die, but doesn't drop anything. Okay. Or you get to plant this tree, and the seed for this tree happens to be an apple tree, right? Apple tree. So if you're on a deserted island, what type of tree are you going to plant?
Apple.
Why?
Because there's constantly stuff growing on it and replacing itself.
That's right. You can actually start to then take the apples and eat them. Okay. Now, when you're investing, most people go to stuff like crypto and stuff like that, which is actually evergreen trees where they don't drop any fruit. There's no cash flow. There's no dividends and there's no rent. And more often than not, NFTs, yada, 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 all these weird things, FX trading, binary option trading, penny stock trading, anything you got to trade, right? Doesn't produce cash flow. And so what happens is no apples drop off this, can't live off it. But if you put your index fund away over time, you start off in your Moneybox app and then you graduate to the next thing, which is you do a little bit more work to set up your online broker account and then start buying a proper index fund. But basically when your index fund grows to a certain amount, let's say, for example, it grows to £100,000, right? You can put it into a fund at that point that actually produces £5,000 a year, okay, in dividends. So you've still got your money tree you've built up over time from being in business, being good with your money, planting this tree and letting it grow. Because your money, your tree doesn't just grow with you watering it with extra money, okay? So when you're watering it, fertilizing it, and putting sun on it, it means you're adding extra money to your tree, basically. That's how you look after it. You don't cut it down, okay? You look after it. But what happens is your tree starts to grow a bit by itself. So your money will actually start to grow a bit by itself because the value of the assets will go up. Does that make sense? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So when it gets to 100,000 and produces 5,000 a year in income, they're your apples. You don't need to cut down the tree. That's the tree. People are like, oh, do I go and spend that now? Like, no, that's cutting the tree down. You don't want to sell the wood. You want to take the apples off and go and buy your holiday with the apples. Go spend it on a new Louis Vuitton bag with your apples. Eat your apples, spend your apples, don't flip no matter what happens to your apples. Why? Because the next year the apples are back. Woo! More money. My goodness. This is called passive income. Passive income is where your money makes money, where assets are producing income to you. Okay? Does that make sense? Does that make sense,
Yeah.
Julia?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
So the reason why people don't plant a tree is they don't know which one to plant. And they are usually doing it for all the wrong reasons. So the idea of this is to continue to build this up. So when it gets to 1 million, you're getting £50,000 a year income. And that's the magic number, at which point you can actually then effectively do nothing. You can live in wherever you want to live, Bali, you can just cruise and just eat apples for the rest of your life without working. And I think that ought to be a pretty good goal for people to hit for having financial independence, okay? So the idea of money is quite simple. You manage your behavior to create savings or seed. You plant the seed, and then you continue to water it and put fertilizer on it by adding money to it over time from your business income, just a small amount, 10%, 20%. And you don't touch it. You let the tree grow, and you put it in such a fund eventually that starts to give you apples, and you have financial independence. And this is the simplest way to be financially independent. You will never find a simpler way. The reason why it's not property is because most people can't afford to start there. And that means they can't create habits. It's too far away. It's too big. And so they just spin wheels and go, well, you know what? I can't be better buy property anyway. So what's the point? And they never change their habits. Any questions?
I did have one that so I've got the Money Box from when obviously I first heard about you.
Yeah.
So I've got the Money Box app that's obviously just ticking away, and then recently just started the Freetrade app after speaking with my brother and obviously finding out from you, and then I went to him to try and find the best one because he's really good at it all. But so now that I'm going to become like a bit more religious of putting money into that Freetrade, would you keep Money Box going, or would you just put it all into one?
Is Freetrade an app where you can buy index funds wholly?
Yeah. So I've got the FTSE 100 on that, which is like our UK one.
Does Money Box allow you to get that too, that fund now?
I think it's recently just I got an email a couple of days ago actually that you can now add new ones to it.
Yeah.
So then I also don't know. There's loads of index funds. There's like a gold one.
No.
There's loads. So now I'm like, well, which ones do I add to it and what?
Well,
I don't want that.
So two things pop up when this happens: is people have, well, I've got a Freetrade and I've got a Money Box and I got this and I got that, and what they're doing is they're accumulating garden beds, and it's relevant. Like you could have 20 or 200 garden beds, but you haven't had a good tree, it's irrelevant. So it's like an online broker, which is what that is. It just allows you to buy shares. It's just, so you only want to have one. Having too many is like having 14 different bank accounts. It's not going to make your money grow faster.
Would you keep Money Box, or would you keep like the index funding?
Well, Money Box, if it's got an index fund, you can add to it. You can do it in a micro way, and it's simple. It's an app. It's
They
easy.
do take a lot of commission. That's the only thing as well.
Moneybox does?
Yeah, it's quite
What-
a high one, I think, but it's
what,
still the
on a
best
tra-
one that we've
on-
got.
On a trade.
I think so. Yeah.
So when you have, well, it would be less than the traditional ones online anyway, through banks with Barclays and so on. You can either open an online broker account with Barclays, which would be probably £15 a trade, or Moneybox might be a bit cheaper. But irrespective, you have to pay money if you want to buy shares. With property, when you buy a property, you pay about £25,000 in commissions and trade. Like, it's expensive to buy property, right? So with shares, it's like flipping heck, it's like 1,000th of that. It's so cheap. So it's not really that expensive. But if you have a situation where you're buying an actual index fund through your Moneybox app, just buy it every quarter. And that way you don't have to pay all these trading fees every time you buy, or buy every month, right? Whatever it is, doesn't really matter which one you use. It's irrelevant. I just should talk about the Moneybox because it's the simplest for people. But if you use your free trade or your Moneybox, just choose one.
Okay.
Because
so
the
just pick
reality
one.
is, the thing that matters the most is, what index fund am I buying? And do I have the behavior traits to hold that index fund and grow it? And where am I getting extra money to put in there? They're the questions that matter the most. So when it comes to your index fund, you just buy the broad-based index fund. Like if you buy a gold index fund or a high-tech index fund or a banking index fund, or it's called a sector-specific index fund. If you do that, then at some point, you're going to have to decide when to sell it, because the sectors will go through massive changes and cycles. Like gold is only good now because of inflation pressures. When inflation goes down and interest rates go up, gold's going to go back down. So it's like, oh my God, like shivers, my index fund's going down now, but gold was going up. So you're better off just to buy something that you never have to sell, right?
Would you say that that FTSE 100 is the best one for UK?
Yeah, that's the top
So I'll just
100.
put everything into that.
That's the top 100 companies in the UK. So
Yeah.
probably there's this thing in investing called home bias. It's a psychological bias. And what it does is you have this tendency to buy things in your home. So ever heard someone say, oh my God, we bought the house next door because it's the perfect house for us, the perfect investment. It's the best investment ever, and it's next door. Like, no, you're suffering from home bias because you're just investing because you know next door because you've seen it so often. So in investing, if you go and buy the FTSE 100, what you'll find is that it hasn't outperformed the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is the index fund for the United States, which is the top 500 companies in America. And you will find that it's outperformed the FTSE handsomely every year. So why would you buy the FTSE 100 when you can buy the S&P 500? And the answer is home bias. I'm from the UK, so I'm buying UK.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That is. I didn't even. Yeah. Maybe I should go American then.
Well, look, end
They
of
do
the
it
day,
better than us anyway, don't they? So.
well, end of the day, it's not like you're gonna do, super poorly if you go UK one instead of USA one. But generally speaking, the S&P 500 is the best index fund in the world. It's just that it doesn't pay a lot of dividends because it grows faster because of the tech companies. But you could go FTSE 100. That's effective. You could just stay with one and just do that. You could do FTSE 100 with half your money and S&P 500 with the other half.
Yeah.
I
I feel a bit anxious about having it all in one, I think. But I don't know why, but it's kind of.
Well, it's just because of the lack of knowledge of what it is. You don't have it in one. You actually have it in, like, for example, if you have it in
100,
you have it in 100 companies.
Yeah.
And it's how do I say? It's fully diversified already in an index fund. Like an index fund is not an apple tree. An index fund is an orchid. You got orange trees, apple trees, flipping bananas. You got that's really what you're buying when you buy index fund. You're buying an orchid of trees, of fruit trees. Whereas when you're buying one stock, you're buying one apple tree. And if witchetty grubs get in there and eat your apples, you don't have any food left. Same as what happens when you only own a bank and then GFC comes. I only own shares in Lehman Brothers. Whoops. So diversification is really what you're getting instantly with an index fund. Cash index fund, not crash and lose your money. So Claire asked that question, and it's a good one with what we're talking about with Nikki here, is that listen, if you had the FTSE 100 there's two good fund managers in the world that really run index funds. One's called Vanguard. They're really the originators. Jack Bogle in the 70s created index funds from Vanguard. So if you're going to buy an index fund, look for a Vanguard index fund.
That's the one I've got.
Yeah, they're the best.
Thanks, my brother.
Yeah, they're the best.
Get that one.
They're the best fund managers in the world. The second one, there's only really two big ones that you really want to worry about, and the other one's BlackRock. So it's either a BlackRock or a Vanguard fund, you'll be fine. But it's really irrelevant because they take your money and deploy it into actually buying the shares legally. So you actually own shares in the companies. And if you're buying the FTSE 100, for you to lose money and it go to zero, let me explain what has to happen for that to happen. First and foremost, the UK has to get hit by a meteor from space. And it has to wipe out all of the companies in the FTSE 100 on the same day. And some companies might survive a meteor hit. So what I think has to happen is the UK has to sink into the ocean for you to lose all your money. So yeah, if you don't feel that's going to happen, then perhaps put it in an index fund.
That's George's problem. So.
It's actually safer than a house because houses can get flooded and destroyed and sinkholes and structural shifts and white ants. Like, it is safer than a house. So you're not putting it all into one thing. You're putting it into a fund that's diversified accordingly. And you can just keep scaling that for the next 30 years. You can pass it on to your kids. They can continue to scale it. That'll go to their kids. They can continue to scale it. You've got this massive orca that feeds your family for the rest of your days because someone decided to get onto a money masterclass and have a chat and actually make some changes. Cool. So yeah, I don't know if you have any other questions. I can maybe do one or two more and then probably you'll have to go to bed because you guys are tired.
I think Rachel's asked one in the chat. I can see.
Put money in the money app. Does it do all this for you? I know nothing about shares. Yeah, the whole idea of it is that it does that. That's why no one knows anything about shares. Now, the idea is to obviously learn a bit, but if you put it into the Moneybox app and you just choose the FTSE 100 and you're just putting your money there, Vanguard, whoever you choose as the fund manager, will actually just do it for you. So if you go into your Moneybox app, you go, okay, FTSE 100, FTSE 100, Vanguard, select. Okay, I want to commit £50 a week or a month to that or whatever it is, just get going and you're done. Which is fascinating because once you're done, you're an investor in shares and you planted an amazing money tree you can scale for 30 years, 40 years, forever. You don't have to sell it, just there. And you're done. That's the investing landscape finished. Like, if you can manage your money well and put it into that, 2/3 of your money journey is complete. There's nothing much else to learn there, right? You can go and learn about Bitcoin if you want, but it's a waste of time. What you then want to focus on, did someone talk?
Sorry, go ahead.
What you want to focus on is, because once you like, particularly for you, Rachel, like if you go far, I know nothing about shares, but I've always wanted to do this. This makes sense. Like I want to have an investment plan and you're good with money and you've got savings. You're like, okay, great. You do it. And when you do that, you build confidence because you get paid a dividend. You're like, oh my God, I got paid a dividend. My investments actually gave me money. This is amazing. Because all that people know how to do is buy a property they can't afford and pay it off over 30 years. That's all they can do. That's it. That's the extent of their investing. So when this happens to you and you get some apples in your account, you're like, oh my God, you start to realize why you're in business. You go, oh my God, I just need to go and find some more water and some more seeds and some more. I just need to go get some flipping money. Because I know where to put it finally. I'm going to grow the biggest apple tree you've ever seen. And that motivates you to be really good at your business because you're like, okay, great. I need to make more money. I need to serve more people. I need to make a bigger impact because you need to fund the money tree. The reason we got into network marketing to make millions of dollars in network marketing is because we already had a money tree. I was like, I want more money. So my sister's like, hey, network marketing. I'm like, sold, let's go. What are we doing? How do we make money here? And that's really why we got into network marketing. People get into network marketing to make extra money. The problem is that's the extent of their end game. That's it. They go and spend it and they just play that game forever and they end up burning themselves out and quitting. But if you've got a longer term game, you will stay in business for longer. You'll love your business more. You'll do more. You'll want to create more because you know you're in the background. You got this apple tree and you want to eat as many apples as you can. You want so many apples, you can sit in the, go shopping in the Champs-Elysees every day. Or whatever. Go to Italy, like Australia, just travel. That's why I want apple trees, man. Anyway. I don't know if that answers your question, whatever it was. Does that help, Rachel?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Great. Anything I haven't covered? Is it too simple? Should we complicate it?
No.
I just have one question. Am I allowed to ask something?
Yeah.
So I loved your analogy at the beginning because I used to be a spender, right? And then I hit the pain point, and then I've gone all the way around the other way. So I'm a hoarder. I'm very much married to like a money monk. So I'm now going to leave this and have this conversation because we've done really well, and we don't have a mortgage, and I'm literally saving, excuse my French, but like a shit ton of money every month.
Amazing.
But we're literally like you said, with savings and stuff, I was like, this is ridiculous. And I'd always thought, oh, because we've got this house, or I'll save up, get a house for the kids or whatever. But I'm like, that's pointless. Like, you know, maybe you could rent it out, but then you've got the stress of it all. So I don't know if there's a way that I could start that conversation with a money monk that's going to be like.
Well, how you do that with a money monk is you take some of the money. They don't know it exists because they don't want to know about it. And you put it into an index fund.
Yeah.
Like, let's call it the FTSE 100, whatever, and it's there. And let it pay you a dividend. And then take them out and do something for them that's really a high value for them with the money. So whatever his highest value is, use the money to do that and say, isn't that interesting? Our money tree paid for that. Money grows on trees. He's like, what? Like, I didn't pay for this, nor did you. Who did? Flip a money tree, man. I go out the back. I took £100 off the money tree, and this is pay for the best dinner ever with that. Like, it's amazing. Like, where's a money tree? Sure, I didn't know we had to flip a money tree. Come on. And all of a sudden, the money monk leaves their money monkness and becomes more of a constructive user of money for whatever purpose they need to.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, George is the same, Kate. He was like, yeah, he thinks it's too risky, but I like your analogy about the meteor. I'll go and tell him that. I told him to come on and watch, but he's obviously got caught up with Freddie. But
risk is a really interesting thing, really interesting concept. It's really risky to save money because you have an instant negative return. So inflation is running, say, 5% a year, 6% a year at the moment. If you've got your money in a savings account pulling 0.5%, your returns on your savings at the moment are about -5% a year. And just to put that in perspective, if you kept it there and didn't add to it, it would be worth half as much in about, I want to say, 12 years. It's gone by half. It's slow, you know, inflation is not quite quick, but if you don't deploy your cash, the probability of you losing money is 100%. Just let that sink in. The probability of you losing money in a cash deposit is 100%. So this whole thing of risk, you're already in your worst nightmare. Because the worst thing in money is losing money, right? That's the risk. It's risky, I want to lose money. You are already losing money in a savings account. So what people think is risky is actually the opposite. You can't afford not to buy assets, because the other risk that people don't consider too is when they get to the end of their life and they've got no money, that's a real problem. And the risk of that happening if you don't buy assets is also almost 100%. So quite often what people actually say is risky is the opposite. You can't afford not to do it. You just can't. Because it's one day when you get to older and you got your business, you don't want to hustle anymore. You got to have a plan B. People just think their business is going to carry them forever, and it ain't. Business is risky. Business is up and down, right? So having an index fund is where you're diversifying your risk into 100 other companies, not just your own. So if you're already a business owner with savings, you're already in a really risky situation. So I would actually say to you, even look, whose husband here or partner works for a large company? Anyone's?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who do they work for? Well, Claire?
BAE Systems.
AA Systems. What about you, Kate?
Kodak.
Okay, Kodak,
Cool.
still around, Kodak. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it's called something else now, but yeah, I
Okay.
think it's called Carestream or something. But
Sure.
yeah, it's
So
Kodak.
check this out. What's fascinating is people say, well, oh, isn't it risky to put your money in shares? I'm like, well, who do you work for? They go, oh, well, I work for AA Systems, like, or Kodak. Like, oh, so you wouldn't put your money into that company? Oh, yeah, sure. Like, well, that's interesting because your whole income is predicated on one company. So if that company goes broke, you don't have a job. You're already in the company. You're already buying into the shares with you working there. You're already part of that machine. So if you think it's risky to put money into that company, you're already there. So to put your money into 100 companies at once is a lot better than you working in your current job. Your current job in one company is riskier than putting your money in 100 companies. So this risk thing is really just people just don't understand. They just say it. It's like an automation thing. Oh, it's risky. They pick that up from
It's a
somewhere.
little safety net, isn't it?
Well, it's just somewhere along the line they heard someone say it. They're just repeating it. It's the same as the old, oh, network marketing doesn't work. Where'd you hear that? It's just this limiting belief, right? So just think about the risk situation. Risk is not really what you think it is. Cool. Great. This makes so much sense. Awesome. Thanks so much, Cheryl. The best. Great. Okay, well, I hope that answers everyone's questions and they're feeling a bit more, who's feeling a bit more solid with their money? Maybe
I'm just gonna go and make my tree happen with my apples now.
great. Let me ask you this. Give me one word or something you got out of this call. I just want to know, like, what did you get out of it the most?
Just how
Probably
straightforward it is,
understanding, like,
really.
oh, we're all talking.
You go, Claire. Look.
Okay, probably understanding that just by doing nothing with money, it's losing money. And there are ways to make money without like breaking your neck over it, I suppose.
Yeah, best way to make money is get your money to do it for you. Doesn't take any energy. Cool. Anyone else?
I was just going to say how simple it all is, really. Like when you,
Simple.
yeah, it's with,
Simple.
yeah, I don't know. I know I've been learning about it for weeks, but I mean, like the actual concept of it is, just just have that little extra that we put aside. And that's why, like network marketing's so amazing, really, because it is extra income. So you can put that extra, whatever you're earning extra away.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of it, right? Like everyone gets into network marketing because it's a side gig initially, because it's not a full-time thing initially. And you're like, I want to do it for extra money, but then the money just leaves the account. Cool. Awesome. What did you
For
get
me,
out?
it's like mindset and clarity. It's just, it's that thing where you know something, but it takes somebody to tell you what to do.
Yeah. Like mentorship.
To know it and change your mindset about it. Yeah. One of the things that you said right at the beginning was it's like learned behavior from when you were younger.
Yeah.
So when we were younger, and I still do it now, and I know the reason why I do it, but I spend a shitload of money on food, like loads and loads of bloody money.
Yep.
My cupboards are stocked high. I do not need more food.
Yeah.
But every week I go and spend the same amount of money, and it's because we as children didn't have the food in the house.
Yep.
And I don't know whether anybody else has had that experience as a kid, but then you just go overboard and you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Like I know in my head that you don't need to do that every week.
Yep.
But because you've learned it from a child, it's changing that like whole behavior.
Yep. Well, the first step of change is awareness.
Yeah.
And how you're aware of it. The objective is to do an exercise where you go and drop your spending by 20 or 30% at the grocery store. And you take the difference and you put it in your money box app.
Yeah, I would definitely be doing that.
Yep. Great. Love it. Wonderful. Excellent. Okay. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, Nikki, for organizing. And
yeah, thanks.
If you haven't got who listens to my podcast here? Anyone?
All of them.
Yep.
The episode.
Let me well, if you go to my Instagram, I'll put my Instagram here, and you can always let's go at Lloyd James. All right, that's me on Instagram. Send me a friend or follow. I'll follow you back. And you can actually got a link tree there. It's got some cool stuff. We've got a free podcast and doing a free Telegram shortly. Got some other stuff on books pretty cheap. So yeah, all that stuff's there, and stay in touch and listen to my podcast. Leave us a review if you ever get a chance. That'd be amazing. And enjoy the journey of your money and go for it. And let us know how you're tracking with it all and your wins. Just DM me with your wins if you want. But thanks, Nikki, for organising, and it's great to meet you guys and teach you a bit about money.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thanks.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.